Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy.
Blake woke up in a dark hallway. The strong smell of cleaning chemicals was in the air. It was the start of another hard day. He got out of bed, feeling sore from sleeping in a small, plain room. He put on his old clothes, black jeans that were faded and a gray hoodie with frayed sleeves. He had worn these clothes every day. For 3 days, he had kept reminding himself that he was homeless. He touched his guitar case. It was the only thing that stayed the same in his life. Inside was his old, worn-out guitar. This guitar had been with him through good times and bad. The city was different at night. It was almost calm without all the people who ignored him during the day. As he walked 3 blocks from the shelter, a scream broke the quiet night. Blake turned quickly toward the sound. It came from an alley between 2 apartment buildings. There was another scream. It was a woman, and she sounded very scared. He should keep running. Getting involved in other people's problems had never done him any favors, but his feet were already turning, carrying him toward the alley. 2 men had a young woman pressed against a dumpster. One held her arms while the other rifled through her purse. "Just take it and go," she pleaded, her voice shaking. "Maybe we want more than money," the one with her purse said, stepping closer. Blake's hands clenched into fists. "Hey, let her go!" Both men turned. The bigger one, wearing a leather jacket, laughed. "Walk away, guitar boy. This ain't your business." "I said let her go." Leather Jacket released the woman's arms and advanced on Blake. "You deaf or just stupid?" The first punch caught Blake in the ribs. Air exploded from his lungs as he doubled over. A knee connected with his face, sending him sprawling onto the wet asphalt. Copper filled his mouth. "Should have minded your own business," Leather Jacket said, drawing his foot back. The kick to Blake's head sent sparks across his vision, another to his stomach. His guitar case clattered away as they dragged him deeper into the alley. Fists and boots rained down until everything went black. Cold rain on his face brought him back. Every inch of his body screamed in protest as he tried to move. Blood pooled beneath him, mixing with the puddles. "Don't try to sit up." A woman's voice, different from the one being mugged. Gentle hands pressed against his shoulders. "You're hurt badly." Blake's vision swam, but he could make out long red hair and green eyes. She wore an expensive-looking white coat that was getting stained with his blood. The girl... "She ran when you distracted them. You saved her." The woman pulled out her phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." "No insurance," Blake mumbled through split lips. "I'll handle it." She shrugged off her coat and pressed it against the worst of his wounds. "My name is Faye. What's yours?" "Blake." "Well, Blake, you're either very brave or very foolish." "Probably both." Sirens wailed in the distance. Faye stayed with him, her hand cool against his burning forehead. "You're going to be okay, I promise." The EMTs loaded him onto a gurney. Faye climbed into the ambulance without asking permission. When they tried to protest, she fixed them with a look that brooked no argument. "I'm his emergency contact," she said, though they'd just met. At the hospital, doctors stitched and bandaged and x-rayed. 3 broken ribs, a concussion, internal bruising. They wanted to keep him for observation, but Blake knew he couldn't afford it. "I told you I'm handling it," Faye said from the doorway. She'd cleaned up and changed into a burgundy dress that probably cost more than Blake made in a year busking. "You risked your life for a stranger. The least I can do is make sure you don't die from the hospital bills." "Why do you care?" She studied him for a long moment. "Because people who do the right thing when it costs them everything are rare, and because I have a proposition for you." Blake tried to sit up straighter, wincing at the movement. "What kind of proposition?" "I own a boutique downtown, high-end fashion. I need someone to help with deliveries, inventory, basic tasks. Nothing strenuous until you heal." She pulled a business card from her purse. "The pay is good, and there's an apartment above the shop that's currently empty. You don't even know me. I know you're homeless. The shelter band on your wrist gives that away. I know you're a musician based on the calluses on your fingers and the guitar case you were carrying. And I know you're the kind of person who helps others even when you have nothing yourself." Faye set the card on his bedside table. Think about it. The offer stands. She left before he could respond. Blake picked up the card. Faye's Fashions, in elegant script, with an address in the Arts District. 2 days later, he stood outside the boutique, his few possessions in a backpack. His ribs still ached, but the pain medication helped. The storefront was all glass and chrome, mannequins in the window wearing clothes that looked like art pieces. Faye opened the door before he could knock. Today, she wore a black dress with silver jewelry. You came. Didn't have many other options. Honesty, I appreciate that. She led him inside. Let me show you around. The boutique was even more impressive inside. Racks of designer clothes, shoes displayed like sculptures, jewelry in glass cases. Everything screamed money in a way that made Blake acutely aware of his thrift store jeans and faded t-shirt. The apartment is upstairs. Faye led him through a door marked private and up a narrow staircase. It's small but furnished. Small was relative. The studio apartment was bigger than any place Blake had lived in years. A real bed, a kitchenette, a bathroom with a door that actually locked. Rent comes out of your paycheck, but I'll waive the first month while you get settled. Faye handed him a key. Can you start tomorrow? Yes, thank you. 9 o'clock. We'll start with inventory. She paused at the door. And Blake, you might want to invest in some new clothes. Employee discount, of course. The first week passed in a blur of learning. The boutique's inventory system, how to handle the delicate fabrics, which customers were regulars. Faye was a patient teacher, but exacting in her standards. Everything had to be perfect. Presentation is everything, she said, adjusting a dress on a mannequin. People aren't just buying clothes, they're buying a transformation. Blake's transformation was more literal. With steady pay, he bought new clothes, simple but clean. Black slacks, white shirts, clothes that didn't mark him as homeless. He showered daily, got a haircut, started looking like someone who belonged in the Arts District. The other employees were all women, which Blake found odd but didn't question. They treated him kindly but maintained a distance, exchanging glances when they thought he wasn't looking. 3 weeks into the job, things got strange. It started small. Faye would know things she couldn't know, when a customer was about to call, what someone wanted before they asked. Her sisters, who often visited the shop, were the same way. They moved with an uncanny grace, spoke in half sentences that the others understood perfectly. Is Blake closing with us tonight? One sister asked. She had the same red hair as Faye, but wore it shorter. The new moon is tomorrow, Faye replied, which wasn't an answer, but apparently meant something. That night, Faye asked Blake to stay late for inventory. He was counting jewelry when the lights dimmed. Blake, could you come here, please? Faye called from the back room. He found her standing with her 2 sisters in a circle of white candles. They all wore white robes over their clothes. What's going on? Sit. Faye gestured to a chair in the center of the circle. We need to discuss something. Blake remained standing. This is weird, even for you. You've noticed things, the shorter-haired sister said. Questions you haven't asked. We're not ordinary women, the third sister added. She was younger than the other 2, with the same green eyes. We have certain abilities. Like what? Reading minds? Blake meant it as a joke, but their serious expressions killed his laugh. Among other things, Faye said, we've been watching you, Blake. You have a good heart, but you're dying inside. Not physically. Spiritually. You've given up on yourself, on your dreams. Thanks for the pep talk, but I should go. We can help you, Faye continued, but it requires trust and sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? The sisters exchanged glances. Faye stepped forward. There's an ancient ritual. It would give you a new life, new opportunities, but you would share your existence with another. I don't understand. During the new moon, you would become someone else, a woman named Allison. She would have her own memories, her own personality, but she would also have access to yours. During the full moon, you would return as Blake. 2 souls, 1 body, each living half a life, but both complete. Blake laughed, harsh and disbelieving. You're insane. The woman you saved that night, she was meant to die. You changed fate, created a debt in the universe. This is how we balance it. Faye's eyes glowed in the candlelight. Allison Summers was supposed to be born, but never was. You can give her life while keeping your own. This is crazy. Magic isn't real. The younger sister held out her hand. A ball of blue light formed above her palm, dancing and swirling. Isn't it? Blake's legs gave out. He collapsed into the chair. How? Our family has carried this gift for generations, Faye explained. We help those who help others. Balance the scales of fate. You saved a life.
Now we offer to save yours. By turning me into a woman half the time, by giving you a complete life instead of a half existence, Allison would have opportunities you never had. Education, confidence, skills, and you would retain those experiences, that growth. What if I say no? Then you continue as you are. We'll honor our agreement. You keep the job, the apartment, but you'll always wonder what if. Blake stared at the candles, his mind racing. His life was a dead end. 30 years old, homeless, talented, but going nowhere. What did he have to lose? Would I remember being Blake when I'm Allison? You'd have both sets of memories, but Allison's personality would be dominant during her time, just as Blake's is during his. Faye knelt beside his chair. It's not losing yourself. It's gaining another self. This is insane. But even as he said it, Blake felt something stir inside. Hope? Curiosity? What would happen to my body? It would transform completely. Allison would be as real and natural as Blake. No one would question it. Reality would adjust. Those who need to remember both versions will. Others will only know the current one. Blake's hands shook. When would it happen? Tonight, if you agree. The new moon is optimal for new beginnings. He thought about his empty life, his abandoned dreams, the guitar gathering dust upstairs. Then he thought about starting over, being someone with a future instead of just a past. Okay. The word came out as a whisper. Okay, I'll do it. The sisters moved immediately. They helped Blake into a white robe, positioned him in the center of their circle. Strange symbols were drawn on the floor in what looked like silver paint. The air grew heavy, charged with energy. Close your eyes, Faye instructed. This may feel strange. Strange was an understatement. The sisters began chanting in a language Blake didn't recognize. The temperature dropped, then spiked. His skin tingled like static electricity was running through his veins. Then the pain hit. Every cell in his body seemed to be rearranging itself. Blake bit down on a scream as his bones shifted, muscles reformed. His vision went white, then black, then exploded in colors that didn't have names. When it ended, he was on his hands and knees gasping. No, not his hands. These were smaller, more delicate. Blake looked down and saw breasts pushing against the white robe, blonde hair falling past shoulders that weren't as broad as before. Welcome, Allison, Faye said softly. Blake, Allison, stood on shaking legs. Her body felt wrong and right at the same time. Memories flooded in. A childhood that never happened, schools she'd never attended, friends she'd never met. But also Blake's memories, like looking through a window at someone else's life. I remember, she said, startled by the higher pitch of her voice. I remember being both. The memories will settle, the younger sister assured her. Allison's personality will assert itself more strongly soon. And it did. Within minutes, the disorientation faded. Allison knew who she was, a fashion designer who'd been traveling abroad, newly returned to start fresh. She also knew she was Blake, or had been, or would be again. The duality felt natural, like she'd always been both. How do you feel? Faye asked. Allison considered. Complete. Like I've been half asleep my whole life and just woke up. Good. The ritual worked perfectly. Faye gestured to a mirror in the corner. Would you like to see? Allison approached the mirror slowly. The woman looking back was beautiful in a way Blake had never been. Shoulder-length blonde hair, blue eyes, features that were feminine but held traces of Blake's bone structure. She was shorter, maybe 5'6" instead of Blake's 5'10". Late 20s, professional, put together. This is me, she breathed. For the next 2 weeks, yes.
Blake will return with the full moon, then you'll alternate. Faye placed a hand on Allison's shoulder. We'll help you adjust. There's an apartment, your apartment, already arranged. Clothes, identification, everything you need. What about Blake's things? They'll be waiting when he returns. Reality adjusts, remember? To the world, both of you have always existed, just never in the same place at the same time. Allison nodded, still staring at her reflection. What happens now? Now, Faye smiled. You live. The next days were a whirlwind of adjustment. Allison's apartment was in a converted loft building, decorated with artistic flair. Her closet was full of designer clothes that fit perfectly. She had a degree from Parsons, a portfolio of designs, a life waiting to be lived. But she also had Blake's memories, his experiences. The combination was powerful. Where Blake had been withdrawn, Allison was confident. Where he'd struggled with self-doubt, she pushed forward with determination. You're adapting remarkably well, Faye observed on the third day. They were in the boutique, Allison now working as a designer rather than stock boy. It feels natural. Allison was sketching a new dress design. Like, this is who I was always meant to be. In a way, it is. The ritual doesn't create something from nothing. It reveals potential that was already there. Allison discovered she had inherited more than just a new body. The sister's magic flowed through her as well, diluted but present. She could sense customers' desires, anticipate trends before they happened. Her design seemed to capture exactly what people wanted before they knew themselves. It's the connection to fate, the middle sister explained. They were having lunch at a cafe near the boutique. You altered destiny once, now you can sense its patterns. Will Blake have these abilities too? When he returns, yes, though they may manifest differently for him. Allison found herself thinking about Blake often. Not with regret or loss, but with curiosity. What would it be like when they switched? Would he remember her experiences as clearly as she remembered his? A week into her new life, Allison was working late at the boutique when a familiar sensation washed over her. She looked up from her sketches to find a young woman browsing the evening wear. "Can I help you?" Allison asked, though she already knew the answer. The woman turned, and Allison's breath caught. It was her, the woman Blake had saved in the alley. She looked healthier now, more confident. "I'm looking for something special, a thank you gift for someone who changed my life." "Tell me about them," Allison said, though her heart was racing. "I don't know much. Just that he risked everything to help a stranger. I've been trying to find him, but it's like he vanished." The woman's eyes were sad. "I never got to thank him." Allison felt Blake's memories stir. The pain, the fear, the determination to help despite having nothing himself. "I'm sure he knows you're grateful. People who do things like that don't do them for thanks. Still, I wish I could tell him what it meant. That night changed me. I was so focused on my problems, I'd forgotten there was still good in the world. He reminded me." She touched a silk scarf. "Is this too impersonal? May I suggest something?" Allison pulled out a sketch pad. "I could design something custom, something that represents transformation, new beginnings." The woman's eyes lit up. "That would be perfect." They spent an hour discussing ideas. Allison poured Blake's experience and her own creativity into the design. A jacket that looked like streetwear but was made with luxury materials. Tough exterior, beautiful inside. The woman loved it. 2 weeks for completion, Allison promised. "Thank you." The woman paused at the door. "I know this sounds strange, but you remind me of him somehow. Something in your eyes." After she left, Allison sat in the quiet boutique, processing the encounter. She could feel Blake inside her, proud and embarrassed in equal measure. They had saved that woman together, his courage, her chance to see the result. The younger sister appeared from the back room, though Allison hadn't heard her arrive. "Fate has a sense of poetry. Did you know she would come here?" "We suspected. Threads have a way of weaving back together." She studied Allison. "How are you feeling? The full moon approaches." Allison touched her blonde hair, looked at her reflection in the darkened window. In a few days, she would be Blake again. The thought brought mixed emotions. Curiosity about how he would handle her memories, sadness at temporarily losing this self she'd grown to love. "I'm ready," she said. "We both deserve our time." The transition back happened gradually. Allison felt Blake stirring stronger as the moon waxed. Her thoughts began taking on his patterns, her movements becoming more like his. The sisters prepared her, explaining that the shift back would be gentler than the first transformation. On the night of the full moon, Allison stood in the same circle where she'd been born. She wore Blake's old clothes. They'd appeared in her closet that morning, reality already adjusting. "Remember," Faye said, "you're not losing yourself. You're sharing space. Blake will have your memories, your experiences, and in 2 weeks you'll return." The change was like sinking into warm water. Allison felt her body shift, bones lengthening, features hardening into masculine lines. But it didn't hurt this time. It felt like coming home and leaving home simultaneously. Blake opened his eyes. He was himself again, stubbled jaw, broader shoulders, his original height. But he remembered everything, being Allison, designing clothes, the confidence and creativity she possessed. "Whoa," he said in his deeper voice. "Welcome back," Faye smiled. "How do you feel?" Blake flexed his fingers, reacquainting himself with his body. Different, but good different. He still had his apartment above the boutique, but now he also had access to Allison's loft. Her memories had given him new skills. He understood fashion, design, the business side of creativity. When he picked up his guitar that night, his playing had improved. Allison's trained ear for aesthetics translated into better musical arrangements. "This is weird," he told the sisters the next day. "Good weird, but weird." "You'll find your balance," the middle sister assured him. Many who undergo the ritual struggle at first to integrate both selves. "You're doing remarkably well." Blake threw himself into music with renewed passion. Allison's confidence broke through his old barriers. He booked gigs at venues that had intimidated him before, networked with other musicians, started writing songs that merged his raw emotion with her refined sensibility. 2 weeks later, he transformed back into Allison with eager anticipation. She immediately checked on the jacket design for the woman from the alley. Blake's musical work had inspired new patterns, ways to incorporate sound waves into visual design. This became their rhythm. Blake pursued music while helping at the boutique. Allison designed clothes while incorporating musical elements into her work. Each influenced the other, creating art that neither could have managed alone. Months passed. Blake's music career took off. He landed a record deal with a small but respected label. Allison's designs caught the attention of major fashion houses. They were building something together, two halves of a whole life. "I need to tell her," Blake said one night, 6 months after the first transformation. He was talking about the woman from the alley, who had become a regular customer. "She deserves to know what happened to the man who saved her." "That's your choice," Faye said carefully. "But remember, not everyone can accept this reality." Blake thought about it for weeks. When he transformed into Allison, she continued the debate. The woman, her name was Rebecca, had become a friend. They had coffee sometimes, talked about art and life and transformation. "You saved my life that night," Rebecca said during one of their coffee meetings. "Not just physically. I was in such a dark place. Seeing someone risk everything for a stranger reminded me that goodness exists." "He would be glad to know that," Allison said carefully. "I hired a private investigator to find him. Nothing. It's like he vanished into thin air." Rebecca laughed sadly. "Maybe he was an angel or something." "Or something," Allison agreed. The decision came during the next new moon. Allison was working late, Rebecca helping her organize fabric samples. They'd grown closer over the months, friendship deepening into something more. "Can I tell you something strange?" Allison asked suddenly. Rebecca looked up from the silks. "Strange how?" "About the man who saved you. I know where he is." Rebecca dropped the fabric. "What? Where? Is he okay?" It's complicated." Allison took a breath. "What if I told you something impossible? Would you believe me?" "Try me." So Allison told her. Not everything. The sisters' magic remained secret, but enough. That Blake hadn't vanished but transformed. That they shared a life, two people in one existence. She expected disbelief, laughter, maybe fear. Instead, Rebecca was quiet for a long time. "Show me," she finally said. "I can't. Not until the full moon." "Then I'll wait." 2 weeks later, Blake stood in the boutique, wearing his black jeans and gray t-shirt. Rebecca stared at him, recognition dawning. "It's really you," she whispered. "Yeah, hi." She crossed the space between them and hugged him fiercely. "Thank you. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for existing." Blake hugged her back, feeling Allison's memories of their friendship. "You saved me too, in a different way." "This is insane," Rebecca said, pulling back to study his face. "But I can see it. You have the same eyes, the same presence." "Most people can't accept it," Blake admitted. "The world doesn't exactly embrace impossible things." "Good thing I'm not most people," she smiled. "So what do I call you?" "Right now, Blake. In 2 weeks, Allison." "And you're both you?" "We're both us. Different but connected." He struggled to explain. "Like 2 songs in the same key. They sound different but harmonize perfectly." Rebecca nodded slowly. "Can I ask you something? When you're Allison, Are we friends?" Blake said firmly. "Close friends. She cares about you deeply." "And you?" Blake considered. "I'm grateful to know you, to see who you've become. But Allison is the one who built that relationship. I'm just borrowing her memories. It was more complicated than that, but it was the simplest truth."
Rebecca seemed to understand. Their lives settled into a new pattern. Rebecca became one of the few who knew both Blake and Allison, who could see the threads connecting them. She helped bridge their worlds, carrying messages and memories between moon phases. Blake's album released to critical acclaim. Allison's fashion line launched at New York Fashion Week. They were living full lives, achieving dreams that neither could have managed alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Faye asked one evening. It was the anniversary of the transformation, and Allison was working on her spring collection. "Never," Allison said without hesitation. "Blake was dying inside. I never got to live at all. Now we both exist. The magic is settling well. You've integrated better than most." Allison smiled. "We had good teachers." The sisters had become more than employers or saviors. They were family now, the kind chosen rather than born into. They guided both Blake and Allison through the complexities of their shared existence. "There's something else," Faye said carefully. "The magic you inherited, it's growing stronger." Allison had noticed. Her ability to read people, to sense patterns in fate, was evolving. Sometimes she could see threads of possibility stretching out from choices not yet made. "What does that mean?" "It means you're becoming more like us. Not fully, you'll never have our complete abilities, but enough to help others the way we helped you." "Transform them?" "Guide them. The ritual we performed is rare and dangerous, but there are smaller magics, ways to nudge fate when someone has earned it." Allison considered this. "Like the night Blake saved Rebecca?" "Exactly. You changed destiny through choice and sacrifice. Now you can help others do the same." It was a responsibility Allison hadn't expected. But as she thought about Blake's memories, their shared experiences, she realized it made sense. They had been saved to save others. "Teach me," she said. The training began immediately. Both Blake and Allison learned to recognize the signs. People at crossroads, moments when a small push could change everything. They couldn't perform the transformation ritual, but they could offer guidance, resources, hope. Blake used his music, songs that spoke to people in dark places. Allison used fashion, creating clothes that made people feel like their best selves. Together, they built a network of small miracles. "You're naturals," the younger sister said after a particularly successful intervention. They'd helped a young artist find the courage to leave an abusive relationship and pursue her dreams. "We know what it's like to need saving," Blake replied. He was preparing for a concert that night, a benefit for homeless shelters, and what it's like to be saved. The concert was a success. Blake played with passion born from lived experience. Allison's memories adding depth to his performance. In the audience, Rebecca watched with pride, wearing one of Allison's designs. Afterward, in the quiet of his apartment, Blake reflected on the strange turns his life had taken. A year ago, he'd been homeless, hopeless, barely surviving. Now he lived two lives, both full of purpose and possibility. His phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. "Incredible show. Allison would be proud." "She is," Blake typed back. He could feel her inside, their connection constant even when one personality was dormant. The next morning brought unexpected news. A young man had come to the boutique, desperate and afraid. The sisters were with him when Blake arrived for his shift. "What's wrong?" Blake asked, recognizing the look in the boy's eyes. He'd worn it himself once. "He's being hunted," Faye explained, "by those who don't understand what he is." The young man looked up. I change. Not like shape-shifting, but inside. Sometimes I'm Marcus, sometimes I'm Marcia. My family says I'm possessed." Blake's heart ached. "You're not possessed. You're gifted." "It doesn't feel like a gift." "I know." Blake sat beside him. "But gifts rarely do at first." He told his story, carefully edited but honest in its essence. The young man, Marcus at the moment, listened with growing hope. "You learn to control it? I learned to embrace it. Both parts of me are real, valid, necessary." Blake smiled. "It's not about control, it's about acceptance." The sisters offered sanctuary, while Marcus figured out his path. Blake and Allison took turns mentoring him, sharing their experiences of dual existence. "You're different from us," Allison explained during one of their sessions. "Blake and I switch completely. You seem to flow between states." "That's what scares people," Marcia at the moment said. "They want me to pick one and stick with it. People fear what they don't understand, but you don't exist for their comfort. You exist for your own truth." It took months, but Marcia found their balance. They learned to navigate the world as themselves, fluid and whole. Blake and Allison watched with pride as their first student spread their wings. "You're good at this," Rebecca said one evening. She was helping Allison pack for a fashion show in Paris. "Teaching, mentoring, both of you." "We had good teachers," Allison said, folding a burgundy dress. "And we remember what it's like to feel lost." "Do you think there are others, like you and Marcus?" "I know there are." Allison's enhanced perception had shown her threads connecting to similar souls across the world. "The sisters say we're part of an ancient pattern, those who exist between states, who bridge impossible gaps." Rebecca was quiet for a moment. "I'm glad you exist, both of you. The world needs people who understand transformation." The fashion show was a triumph. Allison's designs, influenced by Blake's music and their shared experiences, spoke to something deep in the audience. Orders poured in from boutiques around the world. But success in fashion wasn't the real victory. It was the young woman who approached Allison after the show, tears in her eyes. "Your clothes," she said in accented English. "They make me feel like myself. For the first time, I see who I could be." Allison recognized the look, the hunger for transformation. "Tell me about who you want to be." They talked for hours. The woman was transgender, early in her transition, struggling with family rejection and self-doubt. Allison shared what wisdom she could, connected her with resources, offered friendship. "Why do you care?" the woman asked. "You don't know me." "Because someone cared when I needed it most," Allison said. "And because I understand what it's like to become yourself." Back in New York, Blake was having similar experiences. His music attracted those in transition, not just gender, but life changes of all kinds. People finding themselves, losing themselves, rebuilding themselves. "You've created something," Faye observed. They were in the boutique's back room, the same space where Blake had first transformed. A safe harbor for transformation. "We're just paying it forward," Blake said. But he knew it was more than that. He and Allison had become a bridge between worlds, helping others cross their own impossible gaps. The magic inside them continued to grow. Not just the supernatural abilities, but the human magic of connection, understanding, acceptance.
They could sense others like them now, people living between states, refusing to fit into simple categories. There's a network forming, the middle sister explained. Throughout history, there have been those who exist in the spaces between. Now they're finding each other. What for? Blake asked. To change the world, one transformation at a time. It wasn't a grand conspiracy or hidden society, just people helping people, understanding born from experience. Blake and Allison became nodes in this network, their boutique and music venues, safe spaces for exploration. Years passed. Blake released 3 more albums, each more successful than the last. Allison built her fashion house into an international brand, but their true success was measured in lives touched, transformations supported. Do you remember our first night? Rebecca asked. She was older now, successful in her own right, but still a constant in both Blake and Allison's lives. When you saved me in that alley? Every detail, Blake confirmed. They were having dinner at Rebecca's apartment, a monthly tradition. I never imagined it would lead to this. To you, to Allison, to this whole community we've built. Fate has a way of surprising us, Blake said. Blake and Allison had embarked on a journey of self-discovery and growth together, intertwining their paths and molding each other's characters. Despite the intricate fusion of their identities, they had managed to retain their individual uniqueness, a testament to the complexity of human connections. Blake's confidence and Allison's kindness had intertwined, creating a harmonious blend of strengths. In that moment, beneath the warm glow of twilight, they realized that challenging fate wasn't just a vague idea, but a possibility. Perhaps they had the power to chart their own destinies, forging a path beyond the boundaries of chance. Their story, a beautiful testament to the resilience of human connection, was far from over. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.